There are so much cultural knowledge, and we just can't say talk down to them. So this is the first thing the Muskogees taught me. Whoever sitting in front of you, old or young, show respect. Show respect. And to this day, it doesn't fail me. Whoever comes, whoever comes under whatever circumstances, start the conversation with respect. And then and once they know that you show respect, they respond. So cultural competence begins with a desire to understand the deep culture. All cultures, including the North American one, have deep culture and superficial culture. Coca-Cola and McDonald's represent the superficial culture of United States, whereas generosity, liberal-mindedness, and intuitiveness, and doing things, research, that's a deep culture. There's nobody on earth as generous as Americans. No one, no country. They give so much of themselves to other people. So, but you could come and say, oh, I went to the United States, it was just McDonald's and Coca-Cola. So you have to learn the deep culture, cultural sensitivity, cultural knowledge. In the United States, a few years ago, the cultural thing means you have to know a little bit about black people, a little bit about white people. That has changed. Now, for example, the fastest growing region for Spanish-speaking people in the country is Iowa and Nebraska. So we can't just ignore them, And in New York City, there are 20 major languages spoken by hundreds and thousands of people. Bengali, for example, is spoken by something like 150,000 people. So that it's best to keep your open mind and saying, rather than saying, I will learn a little bit about them and a little bit about other people. But if you start with an open mind, you'll be okay. And it took me an hour and a half to put the kimono on. So that doesn't make me an expert on Japanese culture. The lack of understanding of culture, American culture, Australian culture, it's incredible. The health problems of Australia and the United States parallel, very similar. It is not with shame that I admit that last month they found out that Australia now is the fattest country. When I was growing up in Australia, you never saw overweight people. It was so incredible that it has happened so quickly. So if you don't understand a particular culture, Australian or American, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And these are the forest tribes, the Aboriginal people of India, native people of India. Okay, let's look at the United States. If you look at the prevalence of obesity in 1985, hardly anybody was obese in the United States 20 years ago. And if you look at the same data for 2007, there's not any state which is under normal weight. Not a single state has decreased in weight, and not, you can see that 36 out of 50 increased in weight. Something is wrong, isn't it? If each year after year this is happening, something is not right. We might be barking up the wrong tree, Said there is 100 more diabetes educators, endocrinology, nutritionists, but we are not winning. So we can easily if you take a quantitative approach, blame it on calories, you're eating too much sugar, you're eating too much carbohydrate, equal Splenda, whatever. You know that you only have to drink one soft drink a day for your metabolism to change. Only one. And it doesn't matter whether it's regular or diet, because both now has got chemicals. They don't have sugar, as you know. So again, come back to an anthropological approach. You would say, what are people eating? In Macy and Walt Hill and Winnebago, we have this problem of food. What is available? There is nothing, no food available easily. And why are they eating? Because a lot of people eat for various reasons. And how are they eating? Alone, fast food. I always recommend the people eat with other people. When are they eating? Where are they eating? If you don't have time to eat, don't eat. Don't say that I don't have time to eat, but let me grab something. Because stress hormones will override everything. If you are stressed, that's not the time to eat, that's not the time to exercise. Because the stress hormones are very strong, and they will override everything. If you're busy at work and you don't have time for lunch, don't eat. You know, I've never heard of anybody dying because they missed lunch. You know, it doesn't happen. Could it be food or bad eating habits? In the last 2 years, I've been living in France, and we have what's called French paradox. You know, French eat far more fat, drink far more, and there's less than half the diabetes, and less than half, obesity, all the things. And I realized that it is not the content of what they eat in carbohydrate, etc. They all take time off for lunch, and they don't just go and grab something. They sit down lunches. They do it every day. Sit down lunches. It's very seldom you will see somebody, even though there is McCafe and McDonald's, McDo, you see most of the workers sitting down to eat. So that take time to eat. Excessive anxiety and nutrition. Whenever there is an anxiety of food, that's exactly what is happening to the Indians. Indians had tremendous anxiety about 100 years ago when the way they collected food and gathered food was gone, and they didn't know. They had to depend upon other kinds of food. Obesity and diseases come, and this is happening now all over the world. Anxiety about food. This is different from not having food. If you go to Cambodia, you will see a lot of thin people, a lot of poverty, is because they don't have anything to eat. But an Indian said to me, at the moment, our health disparity is not access to health care. In my opinion, I'm thankful to Indian Health Service, and I'm thankful to clinics like Macy, hospitals like Winnebago, because Indians can go somewhere, see a doctor, get the medicine, see people, so that they have access to health care to a certain degree. But Georgia, who said that, our problem is that we have no food. Where to get food? Because of the recent increases in petrol, they can't even afford to go to Sioux City and get food. The best example is Cuba. Cuba, until 1991, was supported by Soviet Union at the tune of something like millions and millions of dollars per day. So they had all great food. There was no obesity. Everybody was lean. I wasn't there at that time, but you could see that. And they would say, we don't have diabetes. And everything changed in 1991 because there was no balanced nutrition available. And the anxiety, I told you, I am anxious in Cuba. Where to get food? And what happened was, within 5 years, a lot of people became obese. This is that time there was less food. So you can't say they were eating more food. They had no food. They had less food. But certainly the quality had gone down. And then within 7 years, they started having cardiovascular diseases. In 2005, Cuba's rate of diabetes, Cuba's rate of hypertension is exactly the same as the United States. So it happened in 1991. So you have to see that you can't just have the same mantra saying, all right, eat well and exercise, everything will be fine. That's the village I used to stay. And when you're working with people of other cultures, you always have to. You always try to be a good person. In medical school, it was very common to say, oh, I want to be a good doctor. But nobody says, oh, I want to be a good human being. I would say that I became a doctor in Australia, I became a good human being among the Omaha people. Because it is only a good human being that becomes a good doctor or a good provider. I might know a lot of technology and all that, that does not become effective unless you're... This is from a relative, Pierre Merrick, who said that in the eyes of an Indian, a bad person can never become a good professional. So we always say this, how insensitive we have become. It's almost like a kind of oppression. The same mantra, watch your diet, do more exercise, take your medication, you'll end up in a hospital, your kidneys will fail. You mustn't threaten the Indians, because Indians would say, oh, it's time for me to go, I'll go. You know, they don't have this fear of death.